taken care of as soon as we leave after the work. It's all in your hands. So we just pray for the district employees, for the board members, and all their families, and of course our customers, or personnel that get close to here, Lord, and the customers. And we pray for the city of Fort Lauderdale, Laguna Vista, South Padre Island, Laguna Heights, Lord, that you will protect, Lord, all of us, and also the county, Cameron County, Texas, the whole United States, Lord. And we pray for them all. And if you give us a good meeting tonight, that we can make all the decisions that come from you, Lord, that we make the right decisions tonight. We thank you again, and we pray for all of this that's happening, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Good prayer. All right.
I think we need to mute the one that said Alicia, just because I think we're getting some wind feedback or something out of theirs.
And Herb needs to speak into the microphone, please.
Yeah, lower it
It's
down.
right there.
Lower it down.
Okay, any public comments from anyone?
Yeah, I have a comment. Since it's just not on the agenda and Scott's not here, I had a little statement, but I'm just going to save that until we have a full board. But I would just like to say that at this time, with everything that's going on with coronavirus and all the unknown, I would hope that we will make sure we don't turn off anybody's water for any inability to pay right now. And I think we have to make sure that we continue to monitor the situation. I have a couple recommendations I'd like to make, but I'm going to save it for Scott. But just the one thing I want to make sure we don't do is turn off somebody's water at this point in time. So I would recommend like at least a 3-month hiatus on any turning off any taps. That's it.
All right, number 4.
Actually, I have a public comment as well. Jason Starkey, board member and resident 117 Seagrape. To reiterate what my colleague is communicating, I would actually publicly like to ask this board and this district to put an executive session on the agenda for our next scheduled meeting. And in that session, I would like a financial report from our financial department regarding how much money we have in reserve. And furthermore, I would like to talk about what it would cost to provide water to our entire district, assuming no one can pay their bill. And then from that discussion, we could, start to unpack, I believe, what Adam's alluding to, because I too don't want to see anyone's water be turned off because their inability to pay. And during a health pandemic, I think it's the last thing we all want to have happen. And furthermore, I'd like to reiterate, there should be no late fees. And we should internally discuss, means for members of our community that are in hard times, loss of job, loss of wages, for them to be able to, file for such, deferred assistance or whatever. We can be creative. So that would be my first point. My second point is, I think publicly on the agenda next meeting, we need to talk about redundancy within our departments to ensure that multiple members of same department are not coexisting together, so that we can do everything we can to ensure that, our whole water treatment department doesn't fall in. And lastly, along those lines, I think we need to have a discussion about sharing managerial information with our subordinates. So in the event that a manager or an administrator falls ill, we are adequately supported with information so that we can continue to provide services to our community. So that's all I have to share. Thank you.
Okay, number 4, consider and discuss for possible approval of minutes of the regular meeting of March 11th. Need a second?
Second.
I get a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. And also let the record show that Mr. Friedman is not in attendance. Mr. Chair, Vice Chairman, I would like to move to item number 7 because we're waiting for response from the county elections office.
Number 7, consider and discuss election advisories action from the Secretary of State, Elections Division, postponing May 2nd, 2020 bond election to November 2020, and possible action if necessary. Mr. Gonzalez.
As the board can have seen the backup in there, that postponement of the election was recommended to the state governor, and then elections officers are gonna also postpone theirs. They're not gonna be able to help us out in any which way. So they're waiting on a response from the board. And it takes a board action to approve the
Excuse me,
postponement
Carlos?
to November or disapprove. Yes.
Please use that microphone.
Can you hear me? Did y'all hear me or not?
Yes, sir.
Now I can.
Thank you.
Oh, this one.
Yes, sir. That one.
Yes, coming from the governor's office and Cameron County's elections officers, the backup is in there where they're recommending postponement of the election of May 2nd, 2020 to November 3rd, 2020. And they're waiting for a response. The Cameron County elections office is not going to be able to help us out. And this is all due to the coronavirus that they want to postpone the elections and everything that goes with it. So the Cameron County's elections office is not going to be able to help us out because they're postponing their employees and everybody that's involved with that. So in saying this, it takes a board action to postpone the elections until November 3rd, 2020, or disapprove it.
I need a motion to postpone.
A motion to postpone the election.
To
Second.
November, correct?
Yes, to November.
November 3rd, yes, 2020.
We got a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Back to number 5, Mr.
Thank you.
Galvan, the general manager's report.
Okay, bringing information on the coronavirus again. We have come upon an order from the Cameron County judge, and that's what is more important. We have provided letters for all of our employees to have in hand when they're driving back and forth to work in case they get stopped. Because we're essential employees, you know, they need our water production to keep going. So we need to keep our employees at work. And in saying all this, we do have a schedule coming up in a little bit for board action also, which is like a skeleton crew, but it's a schedule to cut down personnel in half, at least for the temporary time that until we find a solution to that coronavirus. It could be up to a month, so I'm hoping it'll be less. But for right now, I'd like to say that schedule will help isolate the employees a little bit more, and then we're using just like Mr. Jason Starkey had mentioned earlier, management and then assistant managers to split the week, and the employees are split also. Working at least 20 hours. Everybody's working at least 20 hours a week. So the other 20 we would like to also, when we come to that, and I'll discuss it more. So, and then saying all this, let me see what else. There's a lot of information that one of them is 5 steps for disease prevention that Mr. Avalos had provided for us. It's in there too. We're taking a closer look at everything that's available to tackle that virus and then get away from it and keep clean. So there's a PSA also that our social media grant access has provided us, and it'll be on our website, and there's a letter attached there to that part. So let me see what else. So many things
Carlos.
that there is. Yes, sir.
Carlos, if I can interrupt.
Go ahead.
I want to talk a little bit more about our scheduling. Here's what I would suggest. Here's
You have
what
an
I
item
sort
on
of
the
want
agenda
to
to
get.
discuss
Yes.
the
Yes.
scheduling.
We have an item on the agenda that I'd like to talk more about it, and when that comes.
Do we want to do it then?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
we'll
I can
do it.
pull it off.
I'll come back to that one.
And that
Any
would be
questions?
under, yeah, I'd like to slow down.
What item is that one?
So that would be under item 6.
Yes.
Correct.
And so under item 6, we'd be able to discuss compensation.
And
Yes.
pay,
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what it's about.
Then under item 5, which I believe is where we're currently at, are we just doing 1 employee per truck, I would assume? Want to clarify?
What is that again? Repeat that.
1 employee per vehicle.
I don't know about that one, Mr. Robert Gomez. Do you have an answer to that one?
In some cases, we're not, but when we can, we will. That's part of the reason for splitting also the schedule, so that the vehicles are available for the minimum amount of individuals that we can carry in the truck.
Okay, I would employ us, especially during the next 2 weeks, to attempt to facilitate that. Even to the extent which, and Brian, correct me here, legally, extent which personal vehicles could be used to get an employee to a certain department location. I don't like the idea of 2 people sitting in the same cab.
And
That's probably more of an insurance question, that you would have to ask, like, would be, how that would
Yes.
affect our liability to do that. That would be what I would check on.
Understood.
And one of the things that let me mention that the possibility is there that we can have one person on one unit and then another person, another unit, since we kind of split the schedules. So we have more trucks available while less employees. So we can possibly do that and work something out. We'll do our best to work something out on that one, Robert.
Yes.
And that's a good idea, and we'll work on it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, then, any comments or questions on
Yeah,
the coronavirus?
I do have a couple of comments
Yes, sir.
on the coronavirus stuff. What are we doing, or have we ordered any no-touch thermometers?
Yes, we have,
Okay,
and I think there should be coming in this week sometime. Yes,
okay.
we have.
And
So
we're establishing a process by which we can check everybody as they're coming into work.
yes, correct. We plan to pass, unless Mary wants to come over and pass it to the manager, they can do it at their
Okay.
department.
Hello, everyone. Yes, as Mr. Galvan was saying, we ordered the thermometers. It has been approved for us to go ahead and do that to every employee. We should receive them probably early next week. And what we're doing also with the scheduling is we're trying to comply with the social distancing. So that's why we are kind of splitting the employees and doing a schedule of about minimum of 20 hours per week. As we all know, we are essential. This is an infrastructure that is essential. We need to comply and be there for the public. This schedule it's subject to change, because if you see on the schedule when it's blank, that means on that specific day, the employees we consider that they're on call. We might have an employee that is sick or something happens, so they know they're on call. We might require them to come.
We'll talk about that in the
Yeah,
next meeting.
yeah, we're practicing flexibility. Thank you.
Mary,
Um,
any other questions?
Yes.
The other comment I had in regards to the coronavirus stuff is the CDC information. They had some really good information about water and coronavirus that I forwarded to you.
Yes.
Have we put that on our website or made that available, or do we need to do that? I guess.
No, we've talked to the managers on it, that they need to make sure that they wear their protective equipment, their PPEs. And I know that Robert has emphasized it. And anything that we need to purchase, we'll go ahead and purchase it. But yes, the information is available, and we've looked through it over and over. And what I have read is that on the water side, the coronavirus cannot be active where there's a disinfection, there's chlorine and
Right.
the filtration that we have.
Yeah.
And then on the sewer side, that they're mentioning that and I just downloaded it, that and this one comes from TCEQ. Let me see if I can find it, because I had a lot of information attached here, and the advocate mentions the COVID transmitted by wastewater sewage. It says wastewater has many pathogens. As always, follow sound practices and use protective equipment to reduce exposure to pathogens. Currently, we have no evidence that wastewater transmits COVID-19. That's
Okay.
one of the remarks from Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. So,
And that was my concern, is the wastewater side of it, and specifically the aeration process.
right.
That was where I was concerned about, and I thought I had read information contradicting that in the DC flyer. So that's why I mentioned,
Yes,
about
yes.
possibly getting masks for our wastewater operators.
And we'll do our best to continue to provide more personal protective equipment on that site. So hopefully get away from the virus as much as we can. And that was good information. Thank you.
Mute Charles, please. Thank you. Alex, are you still continuing?
No, I'm done. I'm
Done. Okay. So any other
May-
questions on that COVID-19?
Yes,
Yep.
I would like to make a statement as well. In regards to the coronavirus agenda item, I would encourage our financial department to closely monitor the stimulus package, God willing, if and when it's approved, to see if our district qualifies for any assistance to ensure that we can adequately compensate all of our employees.
Yes, we do have that in the back of our minds, and we'll monitor that part. Hopefully that we can recover some of the expenses that we've gone through already. So we'll be on top of that one. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Carlos,
Anything else?
hello. Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When does our next planned rate increase take effect for sewer and water?
I believe that's I believe like in January, December, January mostly. That's when that happens.
October.
But October 24th is the one where our budget year starts. October 1st.
God willing that the virus is done by then. If we are still in a national emergency at that point, I think it would be appropriate to bring up on for an agenda item to hold off on any rate increases. So if there are any rate or sewer increases that are pending right now, please raise that at the next board meeting. But if you're saying it's October, then we'll wait 6 months and find out where we're at that point.
Yes. Okay.
I would confirm those dates, Carlos, and include it in your next general manager's report, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? Financials? Any comments from you guys? On that one? Okay. So moving on, I have a upcoming board meeting for April. If it looks like it's going pretty well with this Zoom video conference that we're having, so we may have that the next meeting will be April the 8th, actually. So we'll
That's
start.
over.
Yes, and I guess it'll be okay the way it's going right now. So we'll
Yeah.
do that kind of meeting for the next one, and whatever happens after that, for the 22nd, I think it'll run smooth. Hopefully that nothing major happens between now and then. So And I wanted to actually find out from the board if y'all wanted one meeting or two, but it looks like it'll be okay with two
Yeah,
meetings.
we can stick to the regular schedule.
Okay. So then the next information that I have here is the bond committee update. And I did talk to the chairman and vice chair. And they personally mentioned that they do not want to go out and have meetings at this time. But if the board has extended or postponed the elections, I think we can go back after everything's over, if it is, and we start again and let the bond committee take charge of the next meetings, and we'll make sure that they follow through, and we'll be right behind them at the meetings, trying to go ahead and pass out the facts for the bond election of November 3rd now for the bond. So as of right now, everything's been kind of postponed in that manner. Questions or comments on that one? Okay. I don't see the guys up there.
For those
Are
that
we
have
on?
the agenda. Yeah, they're on.
Okay.
I would just put on your calendar, Carlos,
Yes, sir.
maybe May 25th to start following up with the bond president and vice or chair and co-chair.
Sure.
Maybe,
Sure.
2 months from today to begin to get an assessment of when's the next appropriate time that we can start revisiting this.
Right. And I still have to schedule some meetings for them, and everything that we've done already, we'll do it again. And I think we have plenty of time to continue and follow up on all that. So yes, we'll make schedules for that too.
And I presume that we've been in contact with Freeze Nichols and communicated
Yes.
with him.
Yes, we have. There was a question from Mr. Avalos that was concerned, that he was concerned about the pay between holding off right now, between now and November. But he sent us a letter in writing, and normally that's what the regular procedure is. They don't do anything, they don't get paid for it. So we're okay in that part. They put it in writing and send it to us.
Great.
Yes. Anything else? Questions? Okay. So that covers the bond committee update. Now going on the Texas Water Conference update, that it was also postponed and canceled to reschedule for July the 13th through the 16th. And I put the information in there, so we have to cancel flights and the rooms.
Did we
At
do
this
that
time.
already?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Right.
And were we able to recoup our monies?
Yes, on those parts, yes. On the flights, they're just rescheduled for July, so they'll be there. The funds are still there.
Okay.
Now,
I've given it some thought, and I know I'm not gonna be going.
okay, well, it just depends on what happens after that. Maybe let us know. We'll be in touch with all the board members again on that.
Why, I'm letting you know now, I'm not gonna go in
Okay.
July. Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I was asking about the funds. If we're able to recoup those funds.
Daisy, are we gonna be able to recoup those funds if they don't go?
Airline, there'll be a credit to the fee with that airline. And I will contact the conference to see if they're refunded.
The airlines, there'll be credit, but if he's not going,
Yeah, let me know, because
no refund on that. Okay, yeah.
yeah, part of the reason that I decided I don't want to go is because we already have a lot of things going on. And even if I learn something new and would be anxious to implement it, this is a very difficult time to start anything new. So that's part of my reason for not wanting to go. But I'll go if we're going to lose our money on it. I just hate to lose our money on it.
Yeah.
So let me know.
We'll find out on that one and make
Okay.
sure. We'll contact you back. Okay, and then agenda procedures is my next bullet that I provided the board a memorandum because there was a added agenda backups that were passed during the meeting, and I know that the board doesn't like that, so I wrote that memorandum for the staff so we can understand that there's no backups coming in at the last day of the meeting or between Friday and Wednesday board meetings. Because it is information that needs to be read during that time. And if we hand it out very late like that, it's not gonna be as good as receiving it on Thursday or Friday when we pass out the agendas. So no more backups. Like the memo says, imposing a Thursday afternoon deadline to submit all the backups and documents for the agenda items.
I guess
Can you define Thursday afternoon, Carlos?
Thursday
By
afternoon.
end of business Thursday, would that be
Yes,
fair to
sir.
say?
Yes, and I'd like to keep it that way. That way we don't get behind, and there might be some information that could be coming in Friday morning, but I'll make sure that it gets in the packet before it goes out to you guys. But I'm trying to enforce it on Thursday so we can get ahead.
Yeah,
Instead of behind.
if I can just comment, if it's time-sensitive material, then we need to see it, obviously.
Correct.
If we're required to vote on it because it's a time-sensitive issue, you should give it to us no matter what hour it is. But if it's something that can be tabled, then yes, I would say just hold off on it.
Right.
But
And then that's
obviously, the more time we have to read the material, the better.
the better.
Because we come in already kind of prepared sometimes with how we want to proceed on any particular agenda item. And when a last minute item is presented, it kind of makes you rethink, okay, well, am I making the right decision here?
Right. So it is
And from a public information standpoint, I think it's good practice to ensure that agenda items are accurate within that 72-hour cutoff time.
correct. So that's why the memo was produced, so we won't get behind. And if it did happen, I'm hoping and praying that it's not gonna happen again. Anyhow, moving on. Any other questions on that one? Nothing? Okay. Moving on. And I guess that's it for my bullets there. So the next agenda will be on the skeleton crew schedule. So we all will move forward.
Number 6, consider and discuss for possible approval of skeleton crew schedule and pay while on standby. Mr. Dell.
Okay, I know that employees and staff ourselves had been concerned about the employees being in contact with each other and in groups. So the next thing that came about is a skeleton crew. That's what we call it, but it's a schedule that normally for contingency, like an emergency or anything of that sort. So we came up with 20 hours per employee at this time, and not being in contact with the other employees at least half of the time, and separating them from the first 2.5 days of work and the second 2.5 days of work at the end of the week. So Mary and Robert had worked on this schedule, and all the managers, of course, were included. And they came up with that schedule that you have in front of you. And this schedule is may be able to change, but we're trying to be consistent with 20 hours per employee. And I don't know if you all have any questions, because it will take a board approval to keep this schedule at least for a month or so, hoping that the virus will go away, or God will help us and get rid of it sooner.
How many people, Carlos, will see their hours reduced under this schedule?
71.
All the about 70, 80,
About 71.
80 employees, more or less, 71, 80.
I counted 71.
Because staff here is, I know that we're scheduled, everybody's scheduled for 20 hours, but myself and others will be here more often because we need to take care of business.
Right.
But it's, how many, Mary, come over.
79.
79 employees.
Great. And do we anticipate that we're cutting basically their hours in half?
Yes.
Yes.
Basically, we're cutting their hours half
In most cases.
in most cases.
In most cases, unless there is something that we need to take care of, then they will get called in. They understand that they will be on call and they should be at home in case we need them for an emergency or whatever.
So you guys really understand this schedule because you live it and you work it and you put it together. It's a little bit dicey for me to sit here and try and reason out every little bit of it for 70 people, but here's the main gist of what I think is important. Let's say we have the guys who usually treat the wastewater place, and let's say we had 4 employees. 2 of those guys should work together, and they should never interact with the other 2 who also work on it. We shouldn't cross crews. Does that make sense? Because if you have, those 2 guys and one of them gets sick and then the other guy gets coronavirus, then we still have the other pair that have never interacted with this pair, and then they can step in and look after everything. But if these 2 crews interact, then we could suddenly have nobody who's really like in charge of wastewater or sewer treatment or any different plant. Suddenly everybody's contaminated. And at the same time, if we have the manager here and the 2 guys here and the 2 guys here, there can be no back and forth. The managers really have to try and not have that direct interaction with the crews who are actually on the sites. We want to really, shut down those types of interactions. There should be no place where like all the guys go and check in and they high five each other as like crew 1 passes crew 2 on the way out, as it might be in a normal job site. We really, and you can tell me maybe it's set up that way, but that is my whole thought of how it should be.
It's pretty much set up that way, Dr. Lon. Half of the employees report to the manager, and the other half on different days report to the assistant manager.
Okay.
The manager and assistant split the week as well as the employees so that they don't interchange with each other. They're segregated, and we're trying to avoid from anyone coming in contact with the virus. But if they do, they won't have contact with the others that are in a different schedule.
And that's exactly how it should be done. And then those managers, should really watch their interaction with anybody in central processing or where, administration building. We just want to like cut down on all of that, being able, people getting sick. Me and Herb don't want to go out there on a Saturday night to have to fix everything just because you guys all got sick. I can see Herb, bumping me into the wastewater on accident, and that just gets messy. So what's up, Jason?
Understood.
So, along with that point, but talking about not personnel, talking about material like trucks. I keep thinking of trucks, right? See these trucks everywhere. What are we doing? What plans do we have in place? And I don't need all the details. I just need to know that it's been thought of to disinfect said vehicle, especially on Wednesday. It sounds like when the A team and the B team, right? We're trading off. What are we doing to clean, disinfect?
We did
the
buy
areas that have been occupied.
I'm sorry. We did buy some wipes and some disinfectant. We also allowed them some time at the end of the day, 15 minutes for them to wipe everything down in the truck and wherever they're at, as well as try to take care of the equipment that they have and make sure that everything gets wiped down.
And I would have the second shift that succeeds them wipe it down again.
Yes, sir.
Just in case it didn't get attended
Yes.
to.
And we're doing the same thing in the offices.
Yeah.
With doorknobs.
Yeah. You guys should really, everybody, the entire crew working in a dental office, I have a little bit of experience with this, but if we wanted to be really safe, every crew would wipe down at the start of their shift and then at the end of their shift. That way, we're getting things really clean. I'd also be interested to know what you guys are actually purchasing to do the wiping down. Certain things are going to kill this virus and certain things aren't. So if we need to consult on that, there's some materials that work well for it, and there's some things that don't work as well. Putting a little bleach in a bottle and squirting it is not the route we want to take. I can put you guys in touch with medical grade disinfectant if that's what we need. And it's called, there's a lot of different brands, but I use one called Cabbie Wipes, which is like the highest rated one out there, kills the most stuff. Comes in a nice little container. You just whip 2 out, wipe down the inside of that truck or whatever it is, and then you should be good to go. Especially if they're doing it twice, once at the end of a crew and once at the start of another one.
They're very good, yes.
I have a comment on the schedule. I guess the only thing I was thinking about was if we're gonna have the proper personnel, meaning their licensing that they have, whether it's an A class or B class, to make sure that we're not violating any rules, I guess, by having those employees manage or oversee that department. Because I think that was the understanding that's what I understood, that we were training them because we needed a certain level of certified employees and by law, and I want to make sure that they are there and overseeing those facilities so we don't get in trouble. And I don't know if this schedule accomplishes that, but that's what I'm bringing it to your attention.
Yes, it
All
does.
those-
Yes,
all
it
those
does,
that
because,
don't-
what the manager in charge, the first part of the week has a high license. And then the assistant manager, the second part of the week has a high license. So that covers all the ones below. So
Okay.
that's in place.
And those new employees, that technicians that are coming in that don't have a license, they're usually with somebody that does have a license.
Okay. Okay.
Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but under emergency declarations, aren't some of those laws waived in times like this? Whereas, hey, if we didn't have the right certification manager, but we needed somebody with experience to get out there and crank the knobs and turn the valves, that is allowed?
I imagine if we get to a situation where we have so many employees who are sick, if the virus gets to that point, that we don't have enough employees to do what we need to do, measures like that will be taken, and probably we'll be hearing things from the TCEQ and PUC and things in that regard.
Mr. Galvan, will you go ahead and discuss the pay issue?
Any questions for her?
Yes, no, okay.
Before we move on to pay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So we talked about personnel, and you guys have obviously put a lot of thought into making sure that we don't have our whole team, in the same place. That's great. We talked about materials and keeping, our equipment clean, safe, and in a responsible way to do that. Last thing, in my opinion, we should also consider is information sharing. Head coach, right? He knows what the plan is. You go into game day. Coordinator's got a pretty good idea, but as you work your way down, to the position coach, OC ends up with COVID. O-line coach doesn't necessarily know how to execute the game plan. So that's an analogy I'm trying to make my point. Make sure that we're sharing information to the extent necessary to ensure our level of management is always protected, and our leaders can lead, and the ones under them, know their job, and vice versa, I guess.
Right. I believe we'll be doing our best to control that part and continue until everything calms down. But as Mr. Dr. Lalonde was mentioning, that we clean out the vehicles before and after and so forth. We're practicing that already with I don't know if we have the same wipes or disinfectants that he has, but we need to look into that, because I think we do have disinfectants, but not as the quality that we purchase anywhere else.
I would utilize that resource, Carlos, that you have in Dr. Lalonde. Just
Okay.
to share with him what you're currently using. Let's make darn sure it does what it's advertised or what we interpret, perceive it to do.
Okay, yes. And again, the vehicles and everything else that we're practicing, we'll do our best to continue doing that and making sure that virus doesn't come close to us. So in saying all that, coming back to the the schedule here, is the intention is also to keep employees from mingling together and keeping the redundancy on it. of licensing, like Mr. Avalos was mentioning. And we're doing our best, and hopefully that with all these comments that y'all made, that we can continue and work on more ideas. If y'all come up with an idea or something that you hear out there, let us know. And we'll do our best to improve everything. What else? On the pay scale, I believe that it's 20 hours that everybody's working, and the only thing that I would recommend to the board, if they would like to pay the other 20 hours at this time,
Yes.
and consider no pay rate raises and all that other stuff that comes back to us at a later date. And just to make sure that our employees are financially doing okay and not be hurting in any way. And hopefully that they can be contained at home as order from the judges has been mentioned, and continue to do our best. And it does take a board action on this one. And I would just recommend that we do. And somehow or another, the employees are going to appreciate that and do better. And hopefully respond better to anything that the community needs. You know,
I'll
we can
make a
do better.
motion that we accept your recommendation as far as scheduling, and also make the same motion that no one makes any less than they were prior. So they keep,
Okay.
now the ones that were working 40 hours, continue to working 40 hours, that's management, and that's the price of being a manager, but
Oh,
our
yes.
hourly employees should not make any less. So
Okay.
that's my motion.
I'll second.
Got a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposition. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you all very much. And I know that we'll do our best to continue serving the public, the board members, anything that we need here to continue doing our business. And again, thank you.
Okay, number 7.
Hold on.
Number 8.
Hey.
Can I say one more thing regarding number 6 before we move on?
Yes, sir.
Proud of this board for making that decision. I want to mention that. The other thing is, you mentioned pay raises. I don't know when the next opportunity for that is, nor is it important right now. But the other thing that I believe does have some importance is sick days. I don't know how we keep track of them. I don't know if anybody's running out, but if any employee runs into a situation where, they have a temperature or they need to stay home and they're out of sick days, we need to compensate them accordingly. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here?
Yes, sir, I do. And there is a policy in place that other employees can donate. And a lot of us are readily available to donate because.
Yeah, we did that in the school district too, but
And
bring it up. If it's an issue, Carlos, I want to know about it, and I want us to have the opportunity to decide as a board on how to move forward. I don't want to just assume that we're going to be donating days.
Yes, and I believe that everybody has a sick leave available in their possession right now.
Okay.
That, we won't have an issue unless it's more than 2 months. Then we come back and like I said, we take each case by case and figure out what we can do to help our employees again by donating.
Yeah, and if that becomes a problem, let us know. Last thing is, it's kind of open-ended on what we just approved, and I'm cool with that, but maybe in the next meeting, we discuss terms, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, and then we can revisit it. But we basically just said everybody gets to work 20 hours and get paid 40, right? And that's great. I'm all for it, but we should start associating dates with it.
Yes,
and we can do that at the next meeting.
And I did mention 1 month at this time.
Okay, great.
And then what I bring back to the board as at the second meeting of April, we'll come back and find out what's up.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Yes. And again, thank you all for that approval.
All right, and again, number 7. Consider and discuss election advisory actions from the Secretary of State.
We did that one already.
But we didn't vote on it, did we?
Yes,
We
yes, you
just
did.
talked about it.
No, we voted.
Oh, that's right. We moved it up.
Yeah, we got it
You
approved.
called it in, Daisy?
Thank you. Yes,
All right.
you did.
Number 8. consider and discuss for possible approval World Water Day proclamation.
Yes, our Grant Access Media Affairs, Alicia Valdovinos, and also Victor included, came up with the idea of proclaiming that day as, well, it is already Water Day, World Water Day. So they wanted to proclaim it and that the board approves that one. And Victor, are you available for comment on that one?
Yes, we are. I don't know if you wanted us to read the proclamation or just discuss it.
Oh, just discuss it because they have a page where they read it. So yeah, just
Okay.
You read it.
see if they
Well,
have.
basically, we are just doing this as a community. So we sent it to the 3 cities. We sent the proclamation so that they can review and discuss. Basically for awareness, we're going to be posting things on social media to celebrate and bring about water conservation awareness.
I think it's a great idea. I motion we approve.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Passes. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
All right,
Thank you.
number 9.
Okay, number 9, Charles is available for his report.
All right, Charles.
All right, so yeah, I apologize in advance for my dog. Hopefully I got that resolved, so he'll be nice and quiet here for the next 10 minutes or so. But yeah, I guess the first item on here is the Rio Grande Regional Water Plan, the 2021 update. And we did receive a draft copy for review of the regional water plans. So we have between now and October to give comments. And Region M is, the Valley, Cameron, Willacy, Hidalgo Star, Zapata, Webb, and Maverick. And so basically we're at a point to, review and get a state water plan in place that's going to be in effect for the next 5 years. So basically, if your project is described in this plan, you can be eligible for funding through the Texas Water Development Board. And so, reviewed it, gave them some comments. And the second page on my on my backup here is I just kind of gave them a list of our actual water rights diversions, because what they had in the report was a little higher than our actual diversions. So I just sent them that to have their input, so it's a little more accurate. And then I just have the executive summary in here, which you can read on your own time, just so you can get a better understanding of the state water plan that we are participating in. And then you have to jump quite a bit to get to a description on here for the Laguna Madre Water District. But kind of to sum it up in a nutshell, what they have in here is they have our seawater desalination project, which was the report that's on file that was done by NRS for the north end of the island. And then they also have our Port Isabel water reclamation facility, which was to send that potable reuse from the Port Isabel sewer plant and send it back to our reservoir in Laguna Vista through an advanced water treatment facility. And so they've updated the costs for both of those projects that are included in the plan. And then just the other water management strategy is just a municipal water conservation, which would be like, replacing faucets, having more efficient toilets. And then another project that would fall under that would be like Long Island Village, where we're trying to get individual meters on each lot so they can, replace those water lines that are always breaking along the seawalls and get them in the middle of the road. So all that would fall under, water conservation improvement. So
We have until October for comments, so we have plenty of time to address, readdress any comments that need to be made.
correct. Yep. So yeah, so just kind of give you an idea, I jumped over to the page describing the seawater desalination project. And so the total cost of the project, which is a 1 MGD plant on the north end of the island, they have it estimated at $40,290,000. So, when you compare that to our Proposition 2 authorization of 15.6, we still got a pretty big gap there. So, and then the next project description here on the water reclamation facility, the project cost on that one is $19,976,000. So it just kind of shows that, reusing the sewer plant effluent is a lower cost step than jumping straight to seawater. So, that's kind of the general order in terms of, selecting by lowest cost option for water management strategies. And of course, the cheapest one just being buying more water rights, which is what we've been doing. to get us to where we are today. And then, again, with water plant 1 going to microfiltration, that's being supported by the purchase of additional water rights. And we should have sufficient rights to get us past 2030 at this stage. So it's just one of those where we buy them in small increments at a time. But that wraps up the state water plan, unless you have any additional questions on it.
Charles, I have a comment on page 41, under the project source, under description actually.
Mm-hmm.
It says the direct potable reuse strategy involves supplementing Laguna Madre Water District raw water reservoir number 3. Does that mean we will be pumping the potable water, no, the affluent water to reservoir 3?
Yes, that's the plan that was submitted and completed by Carollo. And of course, we want to amend this because, I mean, our plan is to have everything happen in Port Isabel itself.
Right.
But to get that done, we're going to have to amend the planning level reports that are on file with the state.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay.
Go ahead, second part.
Yeah, the second part is just the schedule for existing Texas Water Development Board loan for the lift station rehab. It's just a Gantt chart. And pretty much we have a planning document, their engineering feasibility report. That's with the state under review. And since we're adding pipeline to it to replace these force mains and the gravity sewer extension to decommission the lift station in Isabel's, that requires some environmental review or a categorical exclusion revision. And so those comments have been submitted to the state. So we're getting the environmental clearance in it and the planning document. Basically, as far as order of approvals, they have to approve the environmental clearance, which will be done here in a couple of weeks. And then they can turn around and approve planning. And with those two done, approvals in, they'll release the design funds. And so this is a Gantt chart giving us the schedule for when we're going to be getting everything going. We do have our quarterly outlay request, number 3, which is the due date's March 26th. So we're going to be submitting that. And so the past quarter, we spent about $32,000 in engineering efforts on this project. And so for our schedule, we're going to be proceeding with design and have the bidding documents ready to advertise by September of this year. And then we'd be starting construction in November 2020, and that would last through November 26, 2021. And that concludes the schedule description, unless there's any questions.
All right, moving on along to number 10. Consider and discuss for possible approval of change order number 1 with Coronet Construction for Tarpon Street sanitary sewer improvements.
All right, so as you're aware, or maybe aware, Cornet's out on site. They've already replaced the sewer main on Tarpon, and they're in the process of getting the water lines done on Tarpon and Island Avenue. And then while they were out there, what we thought was PVC, it turns out there's a 798 linear feet that's still asbestos cement pipe that's going to be under the new pavement. And so I did mention this at the engineer's report at the last meeting. And so this is just the official request with the revised quantities and change order for signature. Basically, we're deducting half the pavement because that's going to get performed under the city contract, but they still got to do caliche and work the trenches. So that's why some of that cost is still valid in this contract. And then the increase for the 800 feet of water line is $23,944. And then there are some 2-inch water services that were involved for like Windjammer and condos and 2 other lots. So that was a new unit price that we had to add to the job as well. But once we do the deduct for the paving and the increases for the additional items, we're requesting on this change order an increase of $2,845.50.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
No opposed. All right, number 11. Consider and review expenditures from March 1 to March 15. Move we acknowledge.
I have a question on the what is the deal with this Bobcat that I saw we paid, had an expense, but we got the credit back. What was that about?
Are you talking about
$4,600 credit?
There was a void check for Bobcat, that was just an error that the check was made to the wrong name. So we voided that and we reissued it with the correct vendor name.
Okay, so that's why I see it back again on, yeah, okay.
Correct.
On the, yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
All right. You got a motion?
Acknowledge.
So move.
Got a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, executive session number 12, permitted by the Open Meetings Act. Need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
We'll need a 5-minute recess.
Yes. The IT is gonna need a 5-minute
Okay.
recess so we can make sure everything's correct over here.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, 5-minute break. We'll come out of executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye, no opposed. All right, number 13, consideration and action on executive session items. Alex, you wanna make-
I move that we proceed as directed by our attorney.
Yes,
We need to make a motion first to come out of the executive
we just did. We voted on that.
Okay.
Yes. And the motion that Adam is making to proceed as directed, as we've directed our attorney. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All in favor, no opposition. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great night. Stay safe. Thanks, Brian.
Orlando,
Yes,
that was my mistake.
You almost batted 1,000 tonight, bro.
just make a motion to adjourn real quick so we can
I
adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.